Leo, radiant heart of the zodiac, let me ask you something that might stir a truth you've been quietly sensing. Do you feel like someone in your life is hiding something they're ashamed to say, yet you can feel it vibrating through every awkward pause and altered tone? This isn't just your imagination. It's your intuition. And today, we're diving deep into a truth that someone has been trying to bury, but the universe is finally ready for you to uncover. Welcome back to Eternal Mindfulness. You're not here by accident. If this message found you, it's because your spirit called it in. Because the universe responds to readiness, and today, Leo, you are ready. Not just to hear the truth, but to see what lies beyond it. To reclaim clarity, peace, and a power that is already yours. You've likely noticed a shift. A friend who's grown distant. A partner who seems nervous when your eyes meet. A family member who avoids old, familiar conversations. You haven't said anything, but deep down, you know. There's a weight in the energy, tension that wasn't there before. And you, dear Leo, can't ignore it any longer. You were born under the sun. You don't just crave truth, you embody it. Even when it's hard, even when it hurts. Because you understand something most people don't. Real courage isn't about fighting battles. It's about standing still and letting the light of truth reveal what's been hidden in the dark. So before we go any further, I invite you to pause and ground yourself. Breathe in. Feel the warmth of your own strength. Then leave a comment below that says, I welcome the truth with courage and grace. This is your signal to the universe that you're ready to receive what is yours, not just the revelation, but the growth that follows. And let me take a moment, from the bottom of my heart, to thank you. Every time you like, comment, share, or subscribe, you're not just supporting this channel, you're keeping this sacred space alive. A space where honesty, healing, and transformation are honored. You're not just a viewer. You're part of the Eternal Mindfulness family, and your presence makes a real difference. Now listen closely, Leo. You'll want to stay with me until the very end of this message. Because what the universe is about to reveal to you isn't just surprising, it's freeing. It's the kind of truth that could shift how you see yourself, your relationships, and your own emotional power. So tell me, what part of your intuition led you here today? What did your heart whisper when you clicked on this video? Let's follow that signal together. The journey is just beginning. And trust me, you're exactly where you need to be. Leo, when your heart senses a disruption, even before a single word is spoken, it's because your spirit is tuned into a frequency far more honest than language. You were born under the rulership of the sun, the most visible, illuminating force in our sky. And that's not just poetic. In astrology, this grants you a rare inner compass, one that aligns not only with outer clarity, but with inner truth. That's why even the slightest dishonesty, misalignment, or emotional fog from others doesn't sit right with you. You feel it not just as confusion, but as an aching contrast against your natural need for openness, respect, and radiant connection. This is the part of you that never lies, your intuitive fire. While many assume intuition is the domain of water signs, Leo possesses a different kind of solar intuition that burns away illusion like morning light dissolving mist. It's not rooted in fear or suspicion. It's rooted in your desire to live with authenticity, to see others clearly, and to be seen in return. When someone close to you begins to act strangely, when words and actions feel offbeat or incomplete, your inner flame stirs. Not because you want drama, but because your soul refuses to live in half-truths. That stirring you've been feeling? That restless pull at your attention? It's not paranoia. It's not overthinking. It's the universe reminding you that you don't have to accept energy that feels wrong. Not even from those you love. There's a wisdom tradition that teaches, awareness is the beginning of liberation. When something no longer feels in harmony with your spirit, it's not an invitation to accuse, it's a doorway to deeper clarity. And clarity is a gift that only those who are brave enough to seek it can truly receive. The numbers 1 and 8 carry a special vibration in numerology that resonates deeply with you now. The number 1 represents the self, the origin, the pioneer, the one who knows their own path even when the crowd says otherwise. And 8 speaks to personal power, karmic truth, and integrity. When these energies combine, they remind you that your identity is sacred. You were never meant to shrink yourself to keep others comfortable, nor to carry the burden of unspoken energy that doesn't belong to you. If someone has stepped out of alignment, if their actions or their silence are causing you to question your own worth, this is your moment to come home to yourself. But here's the deeper beauty: you're not being called to react. You're being invited to witness. To observe the shift, acknowledge what your heart already knows, and trust that truth always rises just like the sun, no matter how long the night lasts. Sometimes the greatest act of strength isn't confrontation, but presence. Just being present with what you feel, without forcing or fixing, allows life to unfold naturally, like petals opening with the morning light. So if you've been noticing that someone close to you has become distant, guarded, or oddly careful in their words, trust that noticing. Your role isn't to chase an answer. It's to stay centered in your light and let the truth make its way to you. It always does. Now, if your inner knowing has been stirring while listening to this, take a breath and honor it. And if you feel called, comment the angel number 111 below. Not just as a sign of awakening, but as a declaration to yourself, that you're ready to trust what you feel, and welcome the next chapter with courage and grace. What comes next may feel tender to hold, but it's here not to hurt you, only to bring understanding where confusion once lingered. As we begin to uncover what may be hidden in the hearts of those around you, Leo, remember, awareness is not judgment. It is simply light, a soft, unwavering light that helps you see clearly, even through silence. When someone carries a shameful truth, it isn't always because they want to deceive. Often, it's because they don't yet know how to forgive themselves. And you, with your brilliant presence and natural warmth, can unknowingly mirror back what they wish they were brave enough to be. This part of the journey isn't about blame. It's about seeing the wound behind the behavior and choosing how to respond with both discernment and compassion. Let's look at what the cards reveal, not as tools of fate, but as symbols of reflection. The Strength card reversed is a powerful place to begin, especially because strength is your own archetype. In its upright form, it speaks to quiet courage, emotional control, and the kind of dignity that doesn't need to dominate. But when reversed, it points to something fragile pretending to be firm. Someone may be wearing a mask of confidence, but underneath it lies insecurity, perhaps even fear of your disapproval. Their silence may not be arrogance, but avoidance. Then comes the devil, not as a monster, but as a metaphor. It speaks to attachment that turns into entrapment. Think of relationships where one person clings out of fear rather than love, or seeks validation not through truth but through control. Someone close to you might be stuck in their own cycle of self-sabotage, bound by their guilt or desire to protect their image. You may not have invited this energy in, but you can still feel the way it hangs in the room, unspoken but undeniably there. The Seven of Swords completes this picture. It's the quiet withdrawal, the half-truths, the subtle gestures that betray what's unspoken. It's the person who says, "I'm fine," but whose eyes carry the weight of something left unsaid. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling unsettled, wondering, what was that energy? This is it. Not all betrayals are loud. Some happen in the space between eye contact. In the tone that suddenly becomes too polite. In the stories that no longer flow easily between you. Now, you may wonder why someone would choose to hide something instead of just telling the truth. The answer often lies in comparison. When someone feels small next to your light, they may believe they don't deserve to stand beside you. If they've wronged you intentionally or not, they may carry a private shame that whispers, "You're not worthy." Rather than face you, they avoid you. Not because they don't care, but because they care more than they can admit. This is where your power comes in, not to chase, but to stay grounded. You don't need to fix them. You only need to stay in alignment with your truth. When you hold your center, the weight of others' secrets cannot unbalance you. And from that space of inner calm, insight arises. There is a teaching that says, when someone harms another, it is not only the victim who suffers. The one who caused harm also loses something vital, their peace. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps us understand the depth of what might be hidden beneath their silence. So if you sense that someone around you is hiding a truth, ask yourself gently, what energy do I feel when I'm with them? Does their presence feel warm or withdrawn? Safe or strained? You don't need to name the answer right away. You only need to notice. And if this resonates with something you've quietly felt but never said out loud, take a moment to reflect. Then leave a comment. I choose clarity over confusion. Not to call anyone out, but to call your own energy back in. This week, surround yourself with healing colors. Soft peach to calm the ego. Gentle green to open space for reconciliation. Let your environment support what your spirit already knows. You are allowed to see clearly. You are allowed to stand in truth. And you are allowed to feel everything that comes with it, with grace, with courage, and without shame. Truth, like light, doesn't need to be chased. It arrives the moment you stop forcing its appearance and begin to make space for it. That space isn't found in urgency or in trying to control what others reveal. It's created through presence, through the quiet courage of allowing things to unfold as they're meant to, not as we wish them to. And Leo, you of all signs understand the nature of light. You know that illumination doesn't demand, it simply exists. When you stand in your truth, without resistance or need for validation, the veils around you begin to lift on their own. In this part of the journey, the universe begins to open a door, not because it's punishing someone, and not because it's proving you right, but because your readiness has created an opening. Think of it like a crack in a heavy cloud cover, where a single ray of sunlight pierces through. It may be subtle at first, but once it lands, it changes the atmosphere entirely. That's what happens when we align with clarity. things that once felt murky begin to rearrange themselves. Conversations shift. People who once hid truths begin to speak. The silence between words suddenly carries meaning. And yet, we often make the mistake of trying to pull the curtain down ourselves. We demand answers, we analyze every interaction, hoping for confirmation of what our intuition already knows. But the deepest teachings remind us, truth is not earned through effort, it's received through stillness. Just as the seed breaks through the soil not because we yank it upwards, but because we give it space, time, and trust. So instead of chasing the confession or grasping for closure, try choosing stillness. Sit quietly for 10 minutes each day. Place your hand on your chest and gently say to yourself, I allow the truth to come to me, because I am strong enough to receive it. Not because you expect a dramatic moment, but because in choosing inner peace, you create the very frequency where truth feels safe enough to surface. That frequency is powerful. It's like tuning your inner instrument to a pitch that invites what's real to harmonize with you. And when you're vibrating in truth, there's no need to extract it from others. Their masks begin to fall on their own, not out of pressure but because your calm becomes a mirror, and your clarity reveals what can no longer stay hidden. There's a quiet teaching about liberation, that freedom does not come from escape, but from meeting reality with open eyes and a steady heart. And that applies here. Liberation from confusion, from guessing, from emotional tension, begins not when others come clean, but when you stop clinging to the timing of their honesty. You reclaim your energy when you stop trying to manage their process and return instead to your own. You are not here to control what others hide. You are here to stand in your own alignment so that nothing untrue can hold power over you. So I ask you now, have you ever felt, deep in your bones, that someone wasn't being real with you even though they smiled, spoke kindly, did all the right things on the surface? That discomfort wasn't yours to carry. It was simply your body telling you the atmosphere had changed. And if you felt that before or you're feeling it now, know that you're not alone. Take a moment, reflect, and if you feel moved, share your experience in the comments. Let someone else feel less alone by reading your words. You don't need to push the door open, Leo. It's already cracking from the inside. All you need to do is stay soft, stay clear, and stay home in yourself. The truth is already making its way toward you. There's something sacred about the moment after truth is revealed. It's a quiet threshold, a pause between what was hidden and what is now seen. And in that space, Leo, you are presented with a choice not just about how to respond to the person who has hurt you, but about the kind of story you choose to carry forward from here. Your instinct may be to stand tall and protect your heart. That makes sense. You're ruled by fire and pride, and your sense of loyalty is profound. When someone betrays your trust, it isn't just a mistake to you, it feels like a wound to the soul, because you don't love halfway. You don't offer your warmth to just anyone. But here's the deeper truth. While pain may arrive uninvited, suffering is often extended by choice. When someone comes forward with remorse, with a trembling voice or downcast eyes, it's easy to fall into the role of the one who was wronged. Yet you are not defined by what has been done to you. You are defined by what you choose to do with it. In that way, the power has always belonged to you. And now, it asks for a different kind of strength, not the roar of reaction, but the steady flame of discernment, compassion, and courage. Think of fire. It can destroy, yes, but it can also transform. It purifies. It warms. It clears the old so that something new can grow. And this is your fire to wield. Will you use it to burn bridges or to light the path toward deeper understanding? Sometimes the greatest strength is not in punishing the one who has faltered, but in seeing the human behind the mistake. That doesn't mean excusing harm or abandoning boundaries. It means responding from the heart, not the ego. It means allowing wisdom, not predetto, guide your next move. There's a teaching that speaks of two kinds of response, one that multiplies pain, and one that ends it. The first keeps us stuck, playing roles we never asked for. The second frees us to live by choice, not reaction. And you, Leo, are being called to choose. Will you meet pain with pain, or will you become the flame that transforms it? Ask yourself now, if the person who hurt you came forward not with excuses, but with sincere regret, what would you do? Would you close the door to protect your pride? Or open space, however cautiously, for clarity and perhaps even healing? You don't have to know the answer yet. But even asking the question begins to shift the energy inside you. Because forgiveness is not a favor you give to others. It's an act of liberation for yourself. It's a way of choosing peace over bitterness, presence over replaying the past. So let me ask you this: do you want to carry this story as a wound, or let it become part of your wisdom? Do you want to hold on to what was done, or allow who you are becoming to take the lead? These are not easy questions, but they are worthy ones. They invite you to stop reacting, and start living in alignment with the fullness of your inner fire. If these words touch something true within you, if you're ready to stop being ruled by the pain of the past and start creating a new relationship with your power, then write in the comments below, "I am the flame that transforms." Let that be your commitment to yourself. Not to forget. Not to condone. But to choose the path that aligns with the version of you who leads with dignity, not damage. You've already come this far. You've faced what's hidden. Now, the question is no longer what they'll do. It's who you choose to be. As the storm of truth settles and the dust begins to clear, what's left in its place is not just aftermath but an invitation. This is where healing begins. Not because someone apologized, not because everything is perfect, but because you finally turned inward and asked, "What do I need to feel whole again?" That question, simple yet profound, is the key to returning to yourself, not the version of you shaped by pain, but the one anchored in clarity, care, and quiet strength. True recovery doesn't always look like peace right away. Sometimes it starts with fatigue, with a recognition that you've been carrying too much, too many expectations, too many battles, too many moments where you gave more than you received. And Leo, you give in ways few understand. Your loyalty burns bright. Your love is never lukewarm. But now, the question becomes, who holds space for you? Who energizes you? Who drains you? And where are you still pouring out light into places that only reflect shadows back? It's okay to pause here. In fact, it's essential. When your system has been on high alert, navigating confusion, protecting your heart, staying on for others, you need moments of stillness to reconnect with your center. Begin by tending to the body. Reduce stimulants like caffeine that keep the fire inside you burning too wildly. Choose grounding, golden foods, pumpkin, turmeric, ripe oranges not only for their nutritional value but for their energetic tone. They support your solar plexus, the seat of your willpower and self-worth. What you consume affects not just your health, but how you carry your power. And your power is sacred. In your work life, now is the time to gently audit your energy. Who feels heavy when they enter the room? Which tasks light you up and which feel like obligations that pull you out of alignment? Don't judge what you find. Simply observe. Sometimes retreating isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Learn the art of stepping back with love, not out of resentment, but out of respect for your own rhythm. And ask yourself honestly, am I still walking the path of passion, or am I drifting further from it in silence? Money, too, holds emotional energy. It can reflect both freedom and fear. Be mindful of how you're using it right now. Are you spending to prove something? Are you chasing validation through material things that only offer short bursts of satisfaction? The wise path isn't about restriction. It's about discernment. Before you purchase, pause. Ask, will this add lasting joy to my life or just momentary distraction? In that moment of awareness, you reclaim not just control but peace. And then, there's love. Always, love. You love in full color, Leo. You give without holding back. But the time has come to remember that love and boundaries are not opposites. They are partners. You can express your care without offering your energy to those who only take. You can say no with kindness. You can say yes with truth. Let affection flow, but let it be reciprocal. You don't need to shrink to keep someone close. You only need to be real. The deepest teaching here is this: healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to the version of you that existed before the pain, the noise, the second-guessing. The version of you who leads not with fear, but with knowing. And as you recover not just from this moment, but from everything it represents, you'll start to feel something quietly powerful, self-respect settling back into your bones. A new kind of power. The kind that doesn't roar, but radiates. The kind that doesn't chase, but attracts. You've done the work. You've faced the shadow. Now, let your light take up space again. Let it be soft. Let it be sure. Let it be yours. And now, dear Leo, if you've made it here with me, then I know something about your heart. I know it's brave. I know it's searching not for noise, but for meaning. I know it wants to live wide open, but only in spaces that feel true. And maybe that's what this message was really about, not just uncovering someone else's truth, but returning to your own. Because the truth is never a punishment. It's a clearing. A doorway. A chance to step out of confusion and into clarity, out of protection and into presence. And the most beautiful part? You didn't need to force it. You simply had to be ready. So I want you to take a breath now, wherever you are. Let your shoulders drop. Let your heart rest for a moment. You've listened deeply. You've stayed open. And that in itself is a radical act of courage. The truth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's gentle. It arrives as a knowing, a sigh, a quiet shift in how you hold yourself. Sometimes, It comes not in someone's confession but in the way you no longer carry the weight of not knowing. From this place of awareness, you now hold a choice. Will you let what you've learned reshape how you show up for yourself, for others, for your future? Will you keep reacting, or will you begin responding from your deeper knowing? Will you stay tied to the story of what happened, or open to the possibility of what's next? Remember, no one can hide from you forever. Not because you chase the truth, but because you are the light. And light has a way of revealing what was never meant to stay in the shadows. You've always had that power not to expose, but to illuminate. Not to control, but to clarify. What you do with that clarity now is entirely up to you. So I ask you this, what part of you feels more free now than it did before? What did this message stir in you? And what action, no matter how small, are you willing to take this week to honor your truth? Whether it's a conversation, a boundary, or simply a new way of speaking to yourself, it matters. Everything you shift inward ripples outward. Every moment of self-respect becomes a new foundation you can build from. And if this message resonated with something you've quietly carried, let that be your signal it's time to let it go. Let the healing begin not with someone else's apology, but with your own permission to move forward. If you're ready, I invite you to comment below with the words, "I reclaim my power with clarity and peace." Say it for yourself. Say it out loud. Say it for the version of you who needed to hear this long before today. I want to take a quiet moment to thank you for being here. Your presence, your time, your attention, it means more than you know. Every like, every comment, every share, every new subscription helps grow this sacred space we're building here at Eternal Mindfulness. It tells the universe, I'm ready for more truth. More healing. More alignment. And I promise you there is more to come. So if you haven't already, I gently invite you to subscribe to Eternal Mindfulness, so you never miss a message meant for your soul. Click like if you felt even one sentence reach you. Share this video if you know someone who may need to hear this. And most of all, carry this message with you, the truth is never your enemy. It is your compass. Let it guide you, not scare you. You're not just here to survive what hurt you. You're here to rise wiser, kinder, more whole. And Leo, you're doing it. You already are.